Hello all, it is Campster. Today we have If Your Parents, Live Your Life, or If Your Parents, but not really. I don't know which one I'm gonna title it yet, but so this video is about people who, my last couple videos have been about like people pleasing tendencies and stuff like that, but this one is about if you depend a lot on your family, because I know that's what people really struggle with. Not really. Healing from narcissistic parental relationships, which typically have that control dynamic of trying to control who you are. Some people struggle with the opinions of others, but a lot of us is spot them folks. They be getting to us. We hold their opinions and their dreams for us very near and dear to our hearts, and it is all understandable and everything, but some of us realize it gets to a point where I feel like we fighting with who we want to be and who our parents and our family want us to be. And I know what it feels like to be there. It's a very uncomfortable spot, but I've crossed the bridge of choosing to be myself. I've been through the conflict of choosing to be myself and people being upset. They'll never say that, you know, they're upset that you chose to be yourself, but it's really that they're upset that you didn't choose what they wanted for you. So this is my guide on it, you know, if you struggle with it. I'm gonna be looking at my phone and I'm gonna be looking at my notebook. You know the drill. So the first thing we go through is the unveiling and dethroning of our parents. So if you're watching the video, this is the unveiling. You're at the unveiling part where whatever they've done something that hurt you, or you've just felt forced to be a version of yourself that you're not anymore. That could be what it is. Or just a version of you that they just imagined. I remember my dad said me to that at one point in my life. That's not what I imagined for me. Sometimes our parents have these aspirations for us when we're growing, forgetting that we're people. We're going to end up being who we are, regardless of what they want. It sounds kind of harsh, but that's just what it is. Sometimes it's because our children just choose not to listen. Sometimes it's because God wanted something different for your kid and you just haven't accepted that. Sometimes people are open to their kids being whoever they want to be. Sometimes people aspirations end up being exactly what it is. You don't know what you're going to get with parenting. They say that all the time. We don't know what kids we going to get. But we don't know what kind of goddamn parents we going to get. So it's nice that everybody go into it with open mindsets for each other. Okay? If somebody ends up showing this to a parent or whatever, or aspiring parents, I understand like wanting your kids to be a certain way, or like having dreams, but like don't get too caught up in those dreams, because sometimes they end up stifling your kids later on. That wasn't what you were trying to do, but that ends up being what it is. So anyways, this is the unveiling. You hear because they done did whatever to make you be like, maybe I thought it was a bug. Maybe I depend on them too much, or I got to get out of this weird relationship I got with them, right? I feel like in a lot of homes, I'm going to say POC because that's what I am. And I know that in a lot of POC homes, I feel like we feel it a lot more in our dynamics. The power dynamic between the parent and the child, and like you're indebted to them. Oh my God. They feel like we're indebted to them for them giving birth, from them doing all that. And a lot of us are like, hell, if it was my decision, I would have said, let me where I was at. Because it's ghetto down here. Along with the fact that it's like they've been through more, so they know more about life and stuff like that. And so you feel like they know what's best and what direction to lead you in and stuff like that. And you want to make them proud. You're understanding that your parents did make sacrifices for you, and you want to repay them with following their dream for you, making them happy. I don't know if I'm only talking, I'm not, because I had the thought to say this. I'm talking to somebody who has an immigrant parent, feeling like they risk so much coming over here. Like, I want to make them, like, they didn't sacrifice their life and mine, because I feel the need to say that. Sacrifice their life and mine. I'm seeing somebody, you know, we're sitting by some water, I'm seeing somebody cross some water with a baby. I don't know if that resonates with somebody, but or buy water with a baby, something like that. Somebody about risking their life, water, small child. And some of us struggle with having parents that are kind of narcissists and kind of have that controlling aspect, and some of us kind of feel like, I don't want to disappoint them, and they might put the pressure on you. But whatever your scenario may be, this is where, if you're feeling this push and pull where like, I want to be myself, but my parents or my family want me to be somebody different, you have to dethrone them. You have to dethrone that relationship. If it's a situation where you're trying to heal from, like she said, abusive parents, you're in an abusive situation, I'm gonna be transparent. My family do not want me to talk about this. So I feel like that energy, I'm kind of stumbling over my words right now. I ain't gonna lie. But I've been sitting on this video for a year. Like, been knowing I needed to make it. Just kind of, oh no, I wrote a message. Let me, this is the time for that. I have prayed for and forgiven all parties that will be mentioned in this here video. They are only meant to be used as real life examples to help others apply these teachings to their own lives. Furthermore, I'm only using my personal experience as examples because I was told to. This video has been channeled for and ready to be recorded for months, and I've been told I'm gonna have to share my experience since last year. Sometimes we are afraid of the chaos that may ensue after we complete our directive, but I've learned on this journey that God is well aware of the damage, and that is entirely the point. So whatever God is telling you to do it, no mercy. So if God is urging you to do the same thing, do it. Because if you're like, since I started my healing journey with my parents last year, I've been told I'm going to have to end up sharing my story at some point. And I've been nervous because one of my parents is in my community that I grew up in. And the other one just has a good reputation as well. You know what I'm saying? So it's just kind of like, nobody's going to believe me and all that. But we're going to get to all that. Nobody's going to believe me and all that jazz later. And or people might feel like I'm just being dramatic. Or they might look at the economic circumstances that I grew up in and be like, there's no way she grew up with that kind of lifestyle and that kind of shit was going on. But money don't But I've gotten to the point now over the past year of continuing my healing journey that it's not always about you, and that God is, like I said, well aware of everything that's going to happen, and it's for a reason. So you just got to go for it. And God ain't telling you to put yourself out there for no fucking reason. There's rewards. It does take a lot of courage to do something like that. You know what I'm saying? Because if it was up to me, I wouldn't share no parts of my story at all. I'm a very private person. I don't like my business being out there. Anyway, back to the point. If it's like a negative power dynamic, like what was going on with mine, I'm going to end up getting to the healing part of it. But when you're in that healing space, you might feel like, oh, how can my parents do something like that? That could be where you're at now, like where you're struggling with, you know what, you're struggling with the acceptance of your parents being these kind of people, or that's where you're at.
Yeah, you're struggling to believe the shit yourself.
Yeah. I mean, I'm editing. I did not go into detail enough for my liking, so I'm going to do that here. What I was trying to get at was, a lot of the times when we're healing these relationships with our parents, it's hard to do that kind of work because it's like your family and like, how could I? A lot of the time people struggle with just accepting that my family, who are supposed to be these people for me, who are supposed to be these supporters, who are supposed to be these leaders, are not these people, and I'm having to lead myself. I am having to detach myself from you all because y'all are toxic. Dethroning these people allows for an easier process for some of us. I feel that the acceptance or the healing is so hard because you're holding them at this place of like, family aren't supposed to do these things, family should do this above all, family, and like you have to dethrone them and just start looking at them as people. It's only fair that we give them the grace of the understanding of them being people as well, and don't hold them to like this, like putting them on this pedestal, like having to be perfect, or like they won't do up shit because they family, because like, no, family will do the most up shit. They have the most opportunity to do the most fucked up shit because of their proximity to you. If you're on a spiritual healing journey, then you've heard the term karmic. Karmic partner, karmic friends. Family can be karmic as well. Our families are sometimes just lessons. It sucks. It sucks going through the journey, but some people might be like, I don't want to, or It's too hard. Like, it's family. How could I? Because God has ordained family for us. If you're born into a karmic situation, like your entire family is karmic, you don't think God has a family waiting for you somewhere else, but you have to step into that person that God needs you to be to get there. You can't meet them before you're ready to meet them, because you're going to scare them away. You're going to fuck up the relationship, because right now you're still a product of your toxic environment. So you have to realize first that we need to detach from that toxic environment, and then go through what we need to go through to be ready for our soul family. So I think that was a good segue. After we've gone through the unveiling and the dethroning of our family or our parents, then we must accept. I said at the beginning, yeah, you're having a hard time accepting this version of your parents. I remember when I was going through what I was going through, I was speaking to somebody and I said, I'm starting to see my parents for who they actually are. So, like, first names rather than mom and dad, like who they are as people now that I am growing up. And that's another piece I needed to say. We get to this point, when we reach early adulthood, because we've started to cultivate relationships as adults, and we start to see our parents, of course, as adults. And we're like, and you might get to that point where you may not really like your parents. You love them to death. I don't really like you as a person, though. You may live in be born into a family or live around a family where that is unheard of. You don't say stuff like that. I don't like my parents. I don't like my family. But you cannot like them as people and still love them, still acknowledge they're your family. I just don't kick it with people of your kind. When I was channeling the video, I wrote the heart bit, acceptance. I feel like that is one of the hardest parts about all of it. For me, I was extremely family oriented growing up. Both sides of my family are big families, family reunions, cookouts, going to Mississippi every summer. You know what I'm saying? It was very hard for me to grow up and get to a point where I might not be that close to my family anymore. I might have to grow up and reach my milestones and accolades without them. And that sucks. When you grew up imagining them there all the time, it sucks to always see your parents in this light, and then you get older and they're not that. And you're extremely disappointed by who they actually are. But this is a part of your story. For whatever reason, God intended it to be a part of your story. So we got to go through it. Because if you don't go through it and heal from it, it's going to hinder you. That's the part. People always want to get to their winning season. They want to get to the point where God is blessing them endlessly and they're on their path and that everything feels right. But you got to go through the pain. And you got to go through hell to get to heaven. On to the actual message. Accepting your trauma and pain, accepting the loss of a parent emotionally, and accepting no justice or validation of your story. So for myself, dealing with narcissistic parents, and I'm not using the term loosely, I really had narcissistic parents. A lot of the times we gaslight ourselves out of our own trauma because we're used to somebody else telling us that, oh, it's not that serious, or I love you, and da-da-da-da, and you get caught up in it. But they love me, so, you know, ooh. Okay, don't get ahead of yourself. Okay. I feel like I gotta say it now, though, because I don't want to lose it. When you get to this part of grace, the grace part, I feel like a lot of the times, kids who dealt with narcissistic parents, we get stuck in that grace portion. We get introduced to grace in a manipulative way. So it's like, oh, but I love you, and I just love you in my own up way. Well, that's what I heard. One of my parents excusing the other parents, not excusing the other parents' behavior, seeming as if they were on my side about it, but saying they love you in their own up way. And that would be cool if they were willing to change. But what makes it not cool is when people get stuck being the same person and keep using that same excuse. That is not okay. If you wouldn't accept it in a romantic relationship, you shouldn't do it in any other relationship either. And that includes your fucking kids. The relationship with your kids should not be devoid of the same care or respect that you have of other relationships just because they're children. Accepting your own trauma or pain. Okay, That's where I was going. So we are used to people invalidating our trauma or telling us or using manipulation tactics and stuff like that. And so a lot of the times we find ourselves gaslighting ourselves out of our own trauma. Oh, it's not that serious, or oh, they didn't mean anything by it, or whatever we might say. And the first bit is accepting your trauma for yourself, accepting that pain for yourself. Like, that actually happened, that actually hurt, it was real, and I can acknowledge that it hurt. That's the first part. Yeah, accepting no justice / validation of your story. So for some of us, later on we're going to get to this, but talk to your parents about how you may feel, and they may validate you. You know what I'm saying? And some of us, unfortunately, like myself, they may not validate you. You need to start preparing yourself for that in this acceptance portion at the beginning of it. Your mom's calling you. It is going to be like, well, damn, you did it, and you're not going to even validate it or say that it happened. You can't allow stuff like that to affect you. If you're dealing with a narcissist, they're never gonna say, yeah, I did that. If you're dealing with somebody who just is having a hard time with seeing the bad parts of themselves right now, because some people are just not good at self-reflection. It's not that they're narcissists, they're just really bad at self-reflection, and they just need an ego death. That's all. You know who you're dealing with your situation. If you know that you're dealing with somebody who may or may not validate your experience, baby, start preparing yourself for that right now. But don't put stuff past people either. People are unpredictable. Know that your journey is your journey. Nobody can tell you what you went through or how it felt when it was happening to you. And move forward with that, and know that God saw everything, regardless of what they say, regardless of if they agree to it or not. All these little tiny
regardless
things.
If they take accountability for their actions.
Piggybacking off her point, that we're moving on, regardless of if your family believes your story, the rest of your family is like, oh no, they wouldn't do that. Or if they taking their side, or if you have to tell your story on a grand scale and nobody believes you, who cares? You prayed about it. Hell, you know what you're healing from. You know how it made you feel. You know what affected you. You know what you cried about. You know what you sat thinking about. That phrase they said for years, you gonna let them sit in your face and tell you they didn't say that? You crazy. So, using my own story as an example for this next bit, because we're moving into the healing part. Hello, it is Kimster. So I'm back with the other part. If you've been getting irritated a lot recently, like back to back, people just been trying you. The enemy is testing us a lot right now, because a lot of us are coming out of old seasons. We're transitioning into new seasons. We have grown, we have transmuted and transformed. So if me trying to grab the strings but they're not there, if you've been trying to do things, get work done, you've been running into a lot of, I won't even say roadblocks, just like it feel like stuff is trying to irritate you. Like, so be mindful of that. Count your numbers, take your breaths, go within, talk to God, stay calm. When you're dealing with toxic home environments, or I'm gonna just say it like this, because I felt a lot of push and pull in the last clips when I was editing. Parents can be fucked up on purpose. Parents can be fucked up on accident. It doesn't really matter in the healing journey. You're healing the fucked up things they did regardless. What matters, if it's on purpose or not, and if they're gonna change, is when you get to the end of that healing journey, and when you decide to go in and have that conversation. If it was intentional or not, they fucked up and your feelings are hurt, and that's why you're here. Within healing these relationships, you're gonna have feelings of disappointment and anger and resentment and all the negative feelings. You don't want to get stuck in certain emotions like anger, like low vibrational.
Sadness.
Let's say low vibrational rather than negative. You don't want to get stuck in those emotions, right? But it's natural to feel them. All emotions are natural, so there's no shame in them. Speaking from my kids coming from narcissistic homes, we are introduced to grace. We are introduced to grace in a manipulative way. I was trying to skip past my anger and go straight to grace, because my mom throughout my life would say, I don't even know if I specified, I think I just said one of my parents. My mother would tell me all the time, your dad is like this because of X, Y, and Z, right? And remember, I said sometimes our parents do things because of things that happen in their childhood. So she was not wrong for that, for telling me that, right? But kind of already having an understanding of the grace portion just a little bit, I tried to skip over my anger and my resentment. And you can't do that when you're going through healing, because you're gonna skip over things. You're gonna miss things you need to heal. You're gonna have a lot of holes in your healing. And anger is natural. We have to feel all of the anger. I remember last year I was running with 2 friends, and they don't do the stuff that none of us do the that we used to do, but we was doing some shit that we didn't have no business. And I was fighting and doing stuff, and most of my life I've been a peacemaker. I ain't really had no one-on-one beef with no bitches or nothing like that. I will defend myself if necessary, but it really ain't been necessary because people don't really bother me like that. Me being out running in the streets fighting was extremely out of character. But in hindsight, I needed a way to filter all that anger I had and get it out, because I found myself going through my healing, snapping off, being very angry. I would just find myself being angry and have to go outside and like smash bowls or like plates. That's not healthy either. I had to filter that some way. And so, though I did not know that's what I was feeling or how to filter it all the way, some people might be like, girl, exercise, da da da. None of that shit was working. I had tried that. Because remember, I said I was going through healing, so I was trying. How were you healing and you ended up doing shit you didn't have no business? Healing looks different for everybody. I was kind of doing it, kind of not. Y'all, I was a senior coming out of high school. It was a lot of shit going on, okay? But I say all that to say, God placed me in that environment so I could filter my anger. Though I was writing, journaling about grace, I was not practicing grace in real life. So you can't fake the funk with healing. You have to feel all the spectrum of emotions. You have to feel the anger, the hurt, the pain, the remembering the old times, wishing things would go back to how they were, feeling pain because you understand that now that you've grown up, they can never be the way that they were. You have to feel all of it, because if you don't and you try to skip over it, you're going to miss things. You're going to miss lessons that you're going to need coming out of this season, going into your new life, into your I don't even want to say adulthood. I want to say adulthood because that's the season I'm stepping into, truly being an adult. But for somebody else, I don't know. You might just be stepping into a season of true freedom. You've been an adult for a long time, but you've never known true freedom. Whatever this season may be for you, the lessons you're learning, the things that's going to hurt to go through, you're going to need it. And you're not going to feel equipped to deal with the things that God is going to put in front of you on the other side because you skip shit. You wouldn't feel unprepared if you would have did what I told you to do. So I'm telling you now, if you've tried to go through the healing and you're back at square one and you're not understanding, you skip something, baby. You have to go back. Only you know where that discrepancy lays. I cannot tell you that. So this is something I wrote. Skipping over trauma / your emotions will leave holes in your healing. Change is painful, but it's worth it. But know that if you're trying to skip over a traumatic moment or intense emotion, just know that it will return. You must go through to truly get over something. Feel the pain, feel the rage, feel the abandonment, feel it all. Let God hold your hand and guide you through it. Cry, scream, break shit, let it out, set it free, release it. Whatever you need to do to release that shit, release it. It's not doing anything for you bottled up in here, okay? Actually, it's taking up space. So, I recently moved into my North Node. If you don't know what that is, I am on my life's journey. I figured out what I'm here for, right? In order to get to my North Node and have my heart free enough to fully move in my purpose, because to move into your purpose, you have to be aligned. Your heart has to be whole. It can't be stained with pain from the past. You have to purge. You have to get rid of all that shit. And in order to get here, I had to do that. I had to release all of it. And why it's important to free your heart of all that weight. Moving in your North Node requires you to listen to your heart more than your brain. Your heart and your intuition more than your logic. Those things need to be clear moving into our North Node, our higher self, our soul path. Because that is what God uses to speak to us, our heart and our intuition. So if your heart ain't clear, how the fuck you gonna hear God telling you where to go and how to move? You can't. You get me? So all of it connects. It might feel like, how the hell is my success and my family and my emotions connected? But it is. The good point was, but I was brought back to being angered by them until I finally admitted how furious I was and started channeling it properly. The best part of healing is the peace that you gain. So a lot of people get stuck in healing or run from healing because, this hurts. Nobody told me this was gonna hurt. I don't want to do this. Yeah, that shit hurt when I was going through it. It hurt like, But now some of the same situations are brought to my face every day and they don't bother me anymore. Using myself as an example, when I graduated, I was expecting to go to college. My parents did not want me to go to the college that I wanted to go to. They felt like I wasn't ready to go. I understood their concerns. I didn't understand their concerns at the time. I felt like they were trying to keep me. And it partly was that I felt like they wanted to keep me here. They wanted to keep an eye on me because it was a part of me that felt like my parents didn't want me to be who I wanted to be. I started to feel that in my senior year. But a part of that, struggling with the acceptance of, is that really what I'm feeling? That I really started to see it in that summer after I graduated, after they were really fighting me on, like they were saying stuff like, if you go to that college, we're not going to send you any money, we're not going to support you. Like, what kind of shit? What the fuck? I didn't end up going to college. My mother ended up talking me out of going, and I ended up staying in Georgia. After I stayed, I was planning on continuing my journey at my dual enrollment school that I was at my senior year, and she was telling me that their prices didn't make sense. I was at GMC, Georgia Military College. She was saying that the prices didn't make sense, I shouldn't do it, whatever. So I was like, okay. I listened to my mom because I figured my mama knew what she was talking about, and so I didn't. I was just working, and I was planning on going for the spring semester. I was still trying to figure out what school I was going to go to. Was I still going to try to go? I wanted to go to Southern. Was I going to go to Southern? What was I going to do? I was working, and I didn't know what I wanted to do. School started to feel like, I'm not sure. That's what everybody was pushing me towards, but I wasn't really sure. Now, I had time, because that's not what everybody was asking all the time. Of course, they were asking frequently, but I had time to think about it. My friends at the time had pushed me to make a makeup page in July. And I was good at makeup, doing my own makeup, but I had never considered doing makeup at all. And shout out to them. I fuck with them for that, because I wasn't even considering it at all. Like, they really, really made me make that page. That's what I was thinking about pursuing. One of my friends, Alex, I'm gonna just say their name. I feel like say their name. Alex and Shamara. Alex went to school for it. Shamara went to Southern. Alex went to school. She went to college, cosmetology school. Ended up going to the same fucking school with her after we weren't really talking like that. That's how I knew to go to that school, because I already had been introduced to it through her. But anyways, seeing her go to school for something like that, like seeing somebody do it, made me more comfortable with pursuing it. I was praying on it. I didn't really know which one I wanted to do. I didn't know if I wanted to go to school in the spring. I didn't know if I wanted to do cosmetology. I didn't know which one I was fucking with. And so I was praying on it. And I got led to do makeup. When I made the decision on makeup, nobody wanted me to do that shit. When I say everybody had something to say, the only person who probably wouldn't have had something to say about it was my mama, but we were not on talking terms at the time because she had kicked me out of her home. I had felt this push-pull dynamic with her. We weren't really at a talking point. And so I was willing to talk, try again, make things better, because I was in that gray stage. But we still weren't on talking terms. So, but my dad's side of the family, everybody had something to say. My dad, my stepmom, my auntie. They were saying, maybe you shouldn't have did. Because what I did was I got a makeup certification. I decided to go down the makeup route because that's what I want to specialize in. Doing cosmetology didn't make sense because it's more hair focused. I don't want to do hair. I want to do makeup. I didn't do esthetician because that's skin. That's like deep skin. That's for people who do like facials and stuff like that. I don't want to do that. I want to do makeup. It's very topical. I need to have a little bit of skin knowledge, but not no esthetician license. So I knew how to make my own decisions for myself. But of course, dealing with family, sometimes they feel like they know what's best. And so I was trying to hear them out, but I was like, nah. I was like, I understand what y'all saying, but you know, I also knew that I knew how to make my own decisions. My dad did end up saying, I mean, if that's what you're trying to do, then go ahead. After he had made so many other slick comments and remarks though. So don't get, that's a bit for somebody. Like somebody needed that. Like they'll end up saying they cool with it after they done said so much. So I continued with it. I did, because of the lack of support that I felt from my family, and I was still struggling with that, learning to accept like the validation of myself being enough. and God's, and just I was there. But you know, like when you're there in a journey but you still might be struggling with it a little bit, it was hard. I was still pushing forward, I was still doing what I need to do, but it was still hard for me to still push forward with something, not having no kind of validation, people not checking up on even how I was adapting to adulthood or nothing like that. I had started working 40-hour work weeks while still trying to go to school, while paying my tuition by myself and my phone bill and my car insurance. Nobody's asking me how I'm adjusting, nothing. Like, and I was just like accepting my situation for what it really was. Starting to get to the point where it's like, okay, you know what support looks like, because I'm seeing my brother who plays a sport and he's getting another kind of support. So I'm like, okay, I'm not crazy. For a lot of my life, I felt like it was unjust or unfair to see it, but at this point in my life I realized, no, that was my validation to know that I wasn't crazy, because I'm seeing you raise somebody else in real time and they're not being treated the way that I'm being treated, and I don't give a fuck what you say, because sometimes it be back of the mind stuff. So like, for example, my dad didn't grow up with a dad, so he really idolizes like his son, and I feel like my dad does a lot for his son that he don't even see, and enabling him and stuff like that. But it's because of that relationship he didn't have with his father. And so understanding that, sometimes I would have grace with certain situations, but it gets to a point where it's like, I understand you dealing with that trauma of your father, but goddamn, what about me? I did start falling off with school. I ain't gonna sit here in front. I wasn't going as much as I should have been going. Like I said, I was still struggling with doing something I wanted to do, that I had the passion for, because for my entire life I was so used to doing things for the validation of my family and my parents, thinking about what they would like about something, how they would consider something. And so finally having to do something for myself and not seeing that same support that I would see if I was doing something they wanted me to do, it was hard. But I was still trying to keep up with it the best that I could. But of course, everybody's not understanding my life as I'm going through it, and so people just seeing that I maybe not be going to school as much as I should be, and so they start saying stuff about that. Oh, you're not really interested in what you're doing, you ain't even going for real, da 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 da. I also started noticing, weird stuff with that, how they speak about my situation. Like, instead of saying, are you okay, I'm trying to tell them, just trying to communicate with them, and it feel like nobody's listening to me, because I don't want to get too deep into my story, because that's not what we're here for. But it just feel like nobody's listening, or that's not really what y'all interested in. Y'all not really interested in hearing why I'm not going, or if I'm okay, or nothing like that. You're trying to talk me out, trying to tell me I'm not really interested, so that I'll fall off, so that I can end up doing what you want me to do. This was around, I started school in January, so around this time where I was struggling with this is around March through May. It is now October. I am so glad I kept doing what I was doing, because what was really going on was that I had to find my niche. It's niche, but I kind of like niche too. Anyways, I just had to figure out that I don't like regular beats. I can do them, I'm really good at them, but I like creative makeup. But if I was talking to people who was really supportive of what I wanted to do, they would have been, and also, because that's another thing, sometimes our parents want us to do a certain thing because their parents did that to them. Sometimes our parents are pushing us towards something that they wanted us to do when they were younger. If they don't know the happiness of working in their passion or finding a passion for something on their own, they're not going to be able to guide you through that process either. So I wasn't around people that knew to guide me through a process of really doing something for passion, and to know that maybe you just haven't found your niche yet. You have to keep working at it. But instead you're trying to talk me out of it because you don't want me doing it for real, instead of trying to support me through the journey and keep pushing me towards it. I hope I'm making sense. Being that I'm in October and I found my niche, I'm glad that I stuck with it. I'm glad that I continued, and though, my progress with school is slowed down and I'm not graduating when I should have been, I'm gonna graduate a couple months late, it's okay, because I'm not just working to graduate. I was going through life as I was in school. Hell, I was doing this shit by myself. I was paying everything by myself while working. I wasn't gonna be able to go to school every day I needed to go anyway. While I was going through what I'm going through at home with my family and stuff like that. Life happens. We have to give ourselves the grace, and that was a big part of this journey, is giving yourself grace to still go through life and be healing from this as well. Learning self-love And the self-motivation and validation is going to be a feat. It's going to be worth it in the end, as we see with me. Knowing that throughout the journey, you may sever ties with your family and you may not be around them as much. That's okay. Because, like I said before, God has a soul family waiting on you. And that soul family, that support is going to be greater than any false support from people who are telling you to be a version of yourself that is not real. I said this in my last video, but false support is not real support, and that goes for family as well. And that's why people, like I said in another video, go through midlife crisis and they end up being very bitter people because they didn't live their life the way they wanted to live their life, and then they end up regretting it later. You taking it out on everybody else. Don't be like that. I was going towards, you might end up by yourself or feeling like your family don't talk to you with you the same, and that's okay because you're not really alone. First of all, whether God had another family waiting on you or not, you're never alone because God is there with you always. It's so much you wouldn't really care. Like, I don't really care about the fact that I may not be super close to my family how I imagined growing up, because I have so much more peace in knowing that I'm myself. And don't let nobody tell you like, oh, that's not what I meant by that. Like, bro, like, don't allow the manipulation to continue into your adult years. When you start to see it, that's what it is. Don't gaslight yourself. That's what it is. Like, I can live my life being myself, not worried about having to continuously fight against manipulation or gaslighting. I can know that I have my support system. And they'll breadcrumb you. So they'll ask you like once every couple months. Be like, I do ask you. And then when I start talking about it, you not even paying me no attention. You looking everywhere else or you in your phone. You don't really give a fuck. Like, stop playing with me, for real. Stop trying to play in my face. I'm not going. When they weren't doing what they needed to do, I was getting it from her. And then they were complaining that I wasn't around them like that and I was around her. Well, how are you going to treat me a certain kind of way and then complain that I'm not around you? I'm around the people who really support me, who God brought into my life, and they support me through what I'm going through. And I know that they're meant to be here because through me praying about who I needed to be around, they may try to get you from around certain people or tell you about the people you surround yourself with. If you know the people that you're around and you know your relationship, don't allow them to try to bring you from around people that you know that you need to be around, or the same way they're trying to tell you about your journey. Don't allow them to tell you about the people that you're meant to be around either. Like I said, attract those that God has a soul family for you. If you recognize your soul family, don't allow your karmic family to tell you that your soul family doesn't need to be around you, because they see your soul family taking you down the path that you're meant to go down, but that's not the path they wanted for you. So they're trying to tell you they're bad for you, but that's not what it is. They're bad for the version of you that they wanted. Through shadow work and healing, it's a journey. Honestly, the other videos I've made about healing people-pleasing tendencies, some of us who may struggle in narcissistic families and relationships may struggle with feeling our feelings. Because with narcissistic homes, they typically, emotions agitate them. Every time you are emotionally disappointed, you are taught emotionally disappointed or degraded, like releasing an emotion and being reacted to in that way is disappointing as a child, because that's not what we're accepting. We're expecting nurturing. Every time you're disappointed, you're taught that feeling emotions in this space isn't safe. And so a lot of the times growing up, we start detaching from our emotions, and we have a hard time knowing what it is that we're feeling, because we just know that we're upset, but we just force it down because that's what we were taught to do. So I'm upset and I push it away, but I don't really know what it is. So we just know that we're upset. And a lot of us struggle with like just feeling anger, or just sadness, or like crying, or just feeling mad, but like knowing there's a deeper feeling but not knowing exactly how to describe it. Emotion regulation as well, because if you're pushing away emotions, you don't know what to do with them. So like I said, healing is a process. If I come back in another clip dressed differently, it's because I'm recording the other half on another day. Leave it off for today. Through this whole process, through the healing process, you may feel confused as to why you still yearn for the validation. So even though you're trying to say that I need to heal or I need to detach from these people, you know what? This would be a good follow-up for if setting your boundaries with them didn't go well. You may be trying to tell yourself that you need to, in order to be yourself, you can't be around them. So you may be confused as to why you still may yearn for the validation. It's normal for our inner child to continue the pattern, because children don't recognize that they can't take the responsibility for the wrongdoing of adults. Kids always think doing more means they'll earn more love. They have yet to gain the emotional maturity to understand that they may never receive the parent they deserve. And if they do understand that they may never get the love that they need from their parent. They may not understand that it wasn't their fault. I said in another video, you have to revisit your childhood traumas with an adult brain. You most definitely need to do that within familial relationships, because you were a baby and they didn't know that it wasn't on them that their parents were treating them a certain way, or that, you know, it wasn't due to their ups, it was due to their parents' trauma and stuff like that. For tools, I lied. We're going to leave it off at tools for healing. For tools for healing, you can use voice recordings, you can journal like this. It's so funny. I'm ending off this journal with talking about healing your relationship with your parents, and that is why I started this journal, because I was at the point where I hated where I was with my parents, and I was just like, what the hell is going on, God? Like, what is this? So journaling, voice recordings, video diaries are good for people who may talk fast or you process things better out loud. I know those were really big tips for me. Make sure you get something where you got a lot of space if you talk a lot, because that was something I struggled with, space, because you might end up sitting there talking for an hour or two. Meditation, working out, stretching / yoga, and of course inner child veneration activities. So that means going to like parks, even just stuff you like to do as a kid.
Playing with toys. If you like playing with Legos,
if you like Bratz dolls, if you want to collect Bratz dolls, dressing up as a Bratz doll, because we like to play dress up and makeup and stuff like that. And guess what? We got all of that at our fingertips.